Good afternoon, South Florida. Here is a look at Hurricane Irma continuing to churn across the Caribbean. And we are looking at a storm that is, of course, approaching South Florida the next few days. And everyone should be watching this one very closely. It's now just to the north of the Dominican Republic and moving in toward the Turks and Caicos. Still a very powerful Category 5 hurricane. And we are looking at the watches and warnings as of 11 a.m. extending into South Florida. We now have a hurricane watch all the way from the Jupiter Inlet down through the Florida Keys and all the way back on the west coast to Bonita Beach. So this is, and all the way down to Key West. So this is a fairly large area of South Florida that is now under that hurricane watch. And hurricane watches mean that hurricane conditions can be expected within 48 hours. So those are winds at 74 miles an hour or stronger. And those watches will likely be extended into the Treasure Coast and possibly into the up the west coast of Florida. There's a chance of that too at 5 o'clock or later tonight. All right, here's the track of this the next few days, and you can see by Friday, tomorrow morning, still a Category 5, winds at 160 miles an hour. Then it tracks along the north coast. Obviously, you don't see much of a change here from what we saw yesterday. And then that track comes in around Miami. There is Sunday at 8 in the morning, a Category 4 hurricane, winds at 145. And then up the coast, pretty much paralleling the coast, getting into Monday, 8 a.m., and then tracking to the north after that with a landfall possible around Georgia. This area, Georgia, I don't think has seen a major, even a hurricane landfall in 100 years. It's a very, very unusual track for this storm to take. And here's a look at the computer models this afternoon. Now, the European model has shifted a little west again. Don't be surprised by this. We've been talking about this for about a week and a half now. These models fluctuate back and forth. Part of it is this windshield wiper effect where each model run, it goes back to the west and then to the east again. And they will continue to do that. But obviously at this point, we are going to see something from this storm. And with the most likely track being right up through the coastal areas of East Coast Florida, we are looking at some very strong winds, a storm surge threat here, and also the risk for tornadoes and flooding rain. Shannon.
So at this point, a hurricane watch, Jupiter Inlet,
yes,
south.
All the way to the Miami and actually all the way down into the Keys, Key West, and then back on the west coast.
So that means at this point, hurricane shutters need to go up.
Yeah, and which may be a little redundant at this point because a lot of people, from what I've noticed in the neighborhoods I've seen, and the emails have already put them up or have started. So because this storm is so strong and what I call the Harvey effect from what we saw a couple of weeks ago with the rains in Texas.
And there were the holdout hopefuls that maybe the wobble would change course. Yeah. But at this point, if you were one of those,
yeah,
it's
which
time.
Is fine because the recommendation is always put up your shutters when the watch is issued because you don't want those shutters up. You get a fire in your house. The fire departments do not like hurricane shutters to be up for a long period of time for obvious reasons. But yeah, that is one of the main triggers for the hurricane watch. Put up those shutters. This is the start of kind of the official preparations. You now have the next 48 hours to really get everything set in stone. And when the warning is issued, which come maybe later tonight at 11 or tomorrow morning, that's when you're doing final preparations.
So if the high weakens, that trough picks up steam, we are still going to see something.
Yeah, we at this point, and we're so close now, we will feel something from this. Worst case scenario is obviously the track right down the middle, but there is still obviously a chance. Any shift to the east brings us out of these very strong wind core, so that would help. To the west, which the Euro is doing this afternoon, that's more of an issue with us getting strong or maybe even stronger winds, so that's a concern.
You're not really making much of that wobble, that 1 Euro track to the west. You're not making a lot of that.
I think when the next Euro comes out at 2:33 in the morning, I think we'll probably see a little shift back to the east again. This little windshield wiper effect that we see.
Again, these last, 5, 6 advisories that have come out, it's tracking the same.
Yes, and that is the concern because now we have consistency in the models and the official forecast track out the last 2 to 2.5 days. So when you see that and you see that same track popping up almost every time an official track comes out, that's when you start going, okay, this is where it's going, or it's going to be very close to this.
Okay, so the next track comes out, supposed to be at 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock, yes. So that should be out very soon. And if it's out before 5, we'll show it to you right here.
Right here on the Now. All right, so let's get prepared.